Hear now words recorded for us in Revelation chapter 21, the first 6 verses. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals. He will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away." And the one who was seated on the throne said, "See, I am making all things new." And also he said, "Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water as a gift from the spring of the water of life." And now we turn to the Gospel writer John in the 13th chapter, reading verses 31 through 35. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I'm with you just a little while longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I'm going you cannot go. I give you this, a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. By this everyone that will know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another." The word of God for the people of God this day.
Thanks be to God.
We ask questions all of our lives, don't we? Sometimes it's important to ask questions. I found it really important to ask the "how do you get there" kind of question as I've come to a new place. But we ask questions all along the way. And the when question is an important one. When do I get to go to school? I remember for 2 years sitting at the picture window in my house and looking out over the hillside as the traffic would come down the hill and watching the school bus that would come to my house to pick up my brother. But I didn't get to go. I was 2 years too young to go to school at the time my brother went to school, and I kept saying over and over and over, when do I get to go to school? But it wasn't long before I was also saying, when do I get out of school? You know? When will I be through with school, be able to get my first job, and then on the other end of the spectrum, when do I get to retire? You know the sentiment, don't you? When will I get married? When will I start a family? When will I be done with diapers? Some of you remember asking that once or twice. When will we be back to couple status? When will we be empty nesters once again? It seems like it's built into our very being. It's built into the human psyche to ask the why question, the when question. And sometimes we ask it in these easy, carefree kinds of ways, the kinds of ways I just referenced. These questions have gone on, it seems to me, since the very beginning of time. And certainly this question, this when question, occurred in the Judeo-Christian kind of history. In that story that we hear recorded in the Old Testament, carrying over into the New Testament, we hear sentiments like this: when, O God, when will we escape the pain and the suffering suffering that this life always seems to bring? When will we see an end to all the horrible, difficult things that occur in this life space? When will we know peace? When will we know that kind of picture that you paint for us about the lion lying down with the lamb, about the world being transformed in ways that you and I can only begin to imagine? And certainly they ask this question: when will the Messiah come? When will the Messiah come and set us free? And of course they meant that in all different kinds of ways. They certainly meant it in terms of when will we be free from Roman oppression? When will our lives be transformed in such a way that we are happy, productive kind of people in ways that we don't currently experience being happy? And along with that question answering, that sense of asking over and over and over, when, oh Lord our God, came this sort of appeal: come quickly, Lord. Come quickly and save your people. Come quickly, Lord, and transform our lives. Come quickly, Lord, and help us to know the joy. The joy that the psalmist talks about. Joy comes. You and I have those kinds of stirrings in our own hearts, don't we? We can find those stirrings in our own hearts at almost any point in time. We shudder in the face of pain and illnesses and various kinds of losses that come to our lives and come to the lives of people around us. We feel the pain of those who fall and break bones and have to get put back together again. We feel the pain of Billy and of Helen, who've gone through that in recent days. We grieve with those who grieve. We grieve with Nancy and with Shirley this week. But we also grieve more distant kinds of losses. The kinds of losses that make us feel even more a sense of, I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to respond, and I feel so out of control. I don't know anything that can help make things better. We grieve things like a boy who was walking in Central Park over the 4th of July weekend. He stepped off the path and onto a bag full of explosives and lost his leg. We grieve with families when we see the reports on the news about whole bunches of families escaping from the only homes that they have never ever known and making their ways into overcrowded refugee camps because they're fleeing rebel fighters. We grieve conditions such as those that we heard about from our Honduras team this week when they recorded their stories on Facebook. We grieve things like no running water in a home, and like huge families, 7 or more people, crowded into a space of 500 square feet or less. We grieve the situation of those families in Honduras and people in many places in the world who have absolutely no food in the house. We grieve with families who lost loved ones in a nightclub in Orlando some weeks ago as a gunman opened fire. And certainly this week, our hearts grieve. We're filled with pain over events in our country. I have a clergy friend who lives in Carrollton. She's a clergy woman, and she happens also to be African American. And she and I and other clergy women in our city met on a regular basis. And our conversations took us a million different directions as we met together. But on one particular occasion, she was sharing the pain of being the mother of 2 sons, 2 African American sons. And she, the only African American woman in the group, shared with us what it's like for your sons to go out, especially to go out at night, to do whatever. And to have to pray the prayer over and over and over, Lord, keep them safe. Because she said, when my sons go out at night, I rarely have a sense of the safety that will be over them, and I worry that they won't return. And I realized as she shared those words with me that I also am the mother of 2 sons. But I am a white woman with 2 white sons, and I realized that my concern about safety for my 2 sons is an entirely different kind of situation than this African American woman thinking about her sons. Carol said, it's so awful not knowing when your sons leave home if they'll come back or not. This week, we grieved the death of Philandro Castile, shot by police in St. Paul, Minnesota at a traffic stop. He won't ever come home to his mom. We grieve the death of Alton Sterling, shot by police in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He won't ever come home to his mother, to his wife, or to his 5 children. And we could stay here in this place all day arguing particulars of these stories, the kinds of stories that happen over and over in the news. We could talk about the dangers to police who are called upon to do their job, and an awful job it is. We could talk about the true threat that they feel always as they have to make split-second decisions. But there's truth to what my friend said as she reflected on her 2 sons. There's simply danger for black men in America that's not always common to the white experience. There's fear for black mothers in America that's not always common for white mothers in America. But we know the story doesn't end there, don't we? These 2 shootings prompted protests all across our country. And in Dallas, while people were gathered in protest, a sniper shot some 12 police, and 5 of those resulted in death. Today, we grieve the death of Brent Thompson. We grieve the death of Patrick Zamarripa. We grieve the death of Michael Kroll and Michael Smith and Lauren